All right, intro, third podcast. Welcome back. It's Gridiron Zeros. I'm your hungover host, Lucas Scott, joined by my better half, my cousin, Alex Scott. How are you?
Slightly less hungover than you, but
yeah,
got a little bit of one too.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get through this by drinking, so we'll see how it goes. This week, we're going to be talking about big shocker free agency. A lot of moves happen in the NFL. We're going to be trying to cover as much as we can.
A lot of moves that made us look like idiots from last week, by the way.
I was
quite a few of those.
Just a few numbers off on my fake contracts. Some of them I was close, but for the most part, I was completely wrong. So
some big surprises.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
All right, so some big transactions this last week in the NFL. We figured we'd kind of break everything down by position. First and foremost being the quarterback moves this week.
Obviously.
Yeah, there was some big changes in the quarterback landscape. The first one being that we want to touch on was Andy Dalton signing with the Bears. We have kind of been talking about this being the Russell Wilson dream destination, and it seems like that's no longer going to happen now that they bring in Andy Dalton on a 1-year, $10 million contract.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Lucas, what do you think of the move?
I mean, I really thought that Russell Wilson was a pipe dream. Thought there was no chance that was actually going to happen because, I mean, like, I can't picture Seattle dealing him. So, I guess really like their next best option was Dalton.
You don't think their next best option was to keep Trubisky around for a 1-year deal?
I thought so, but I mean, they're not going to do that.
I don't know.
It really seems like they hate him, which I don't get it either. I think he has shown flashes here and there. So I don't fully understand it, but if you're going to go with a new quarterback, you know, really now that I'm thinking about it too, they have Foles, and I don't know why you just take a shot with him for 1 year. But I mean, they might do that. Who knows? You know, Dalton might not be the starter. I would assume that he's going to be the starter there.
I bet Bears fans are just thinking this is the most Bears move they could have made because they just don't seem to have a grasp on how to actually handle their quarterback situation properly. No, I don't think this signing has any juice to it. Like, I don't think this is getting anyone excited.
Heavens no.
I think he's just
a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, they're not going to draft someone this year because both the GM and the head coach are kind of on the hot seat. So they need to just bring in a stopgap and see what happens kind of thing. And for some reason, they kind of felt he was the best choice. I know that their OC, Bill Lazor, has a connection to Andy Dalton from his time in Cincy. So there's something there, I guess. But, I mean, what a dreadful quarterback room with him and Nick Foles and whoever they end up adding in the offseason here. But it's just this feels like
that's it.
Very
they're going into the season with Dalton and Foles. Yeah, I mean, who is going to be the starter? No idea.
Well, Foles has never been a good starting quarterback. No. Never. In Philly, he had that one really good season. Well, I'm not even talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about when he was a legit starter for them. When
way back
when what's his name? Chip Kelly was there, and he had that crazy good year. He was actually the starter for the year,
and then he went to KC.
Right, and he's been a career backup ever since. And he, of course, had the legendary Super Bowl playoff run as a backup.
Yeah,
he's never been a consistent starting quarterback. He was with the Jaguars. I think everyone kind of forgets about until.
I mean, he got injured the first game.
Yeah, so
I mean that seems to be his biggest issue is he can't really stay healthy because I mean he got injured last season too. That's why Trubisky came back in.
Does Andy Dalton seem like an upgrade over Foles in any way to you? Doesn't to me.
No, not at all. So I mean, I don't think it's a great signing, but I mean, I guess that's good for us.
Yeah, it's great for us Lions fans. I guess their best option at this point with these two on the roster is maybe throw a dart at someone later in the draft if you have a set, like a third round, fourth round pick, and there's someone that's kind of interesting. Maybe you kind of luck out here. I guess I understand the hesitation, not going, we're going to trade up to get another quarterback. Like, that didn't work so well last time.
It did not. And that was such a stupid ass trade.
I know.
But let's not get into it. Let's go on to the next guy.
All right. So the next big quarterback signing, I guess we can talk about kind of going off of the Bears, is Mitchell Trubisky. He signs a 1-year deal to be the backup in Buffalo to Josh Allen because he obviously does not expect to start, unless there's some
I don't know
injury.
Who would give him that option.
You mean this year?
Yeah.
He'd go compete somewhere, probably.
Probably.
But
yeah, I mean, you're not competing in Buffalo.
No. I listened to Brandon Beane or whoever the Buffalo Bills GM is, kind of them talking about this transaction in their press conference, and they were very clearly making it just sound like, yeah, we know he's not going to be here long term. This is a 1-year thing. Yeah. He's just going to be here and try and get an opportunity to do something and prove that he can go out there and go get a contract down the road from another team. They're totally aware this is the situation. He's just their backup, and I think it kind of reminds me of the Jameis move when he signed with New Orleans and kind of look where that went. I mean, he's probably not going to be signing an extension in Buffalo, but maybe he'll flash a little bit.
Well, you know what? You know what's interesting about that is I was a little puzzled by the move because, like I said, I do believe that he could compete for a starting job somewhere. And obviously he's not going to do that with Buffalo. He's backup. It's locked in stone. Like, there's no way. Mm-hmm. But it's an interesting move because you look at the progression that Josh Allen has had. Like when he came into the league, he showed flashes here and there, and then he made a huge jump this past season and became very accurate, way more accurate than he was in his first season. So maybe that's why Trubisky ended up being like, you know what, I'll go to Buffalo. Maybe they can help me with my accuracy for 1 year, and then I'll make the jump and try to get a starting job somewhere else.
Yeah, I guess the more I think about it, is kind of a win-win because Trubisky's skill set as a quarterback are pretty similar to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is just like 5 times better than him in every area.
Now, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, with the proper system around him and with the coaching staff that can take those elements of his game and just kind of bump them up, maybe that makes him a more attractive long-term option next year. Maybe he kind of gets like a Teddy Bridgewater contract next year where it's like, okay, like we'll give you a year or two to see if you can be our guy. And maybe, I mean, he's still so young. He's still in his mid-20s. So he's got a lot of time here to kind of course correct. Mm-hmm. And I'll just leave it one last thing with Trubisky is that the Bears did not really do him a lot of favors when he was there. They, besides Allen Robinson, they didn't surround him with a ton of talent.
Yeah. And I mean, like, good luck Andy Dalton.
Seriously. So it's a mega inconsistent franchise. And I think this will benefit him in the long run. So it's an interesting signing.
It is. What do you got for the next one?
Kind of going down my list here. Let's see. Let's talk about Fitz going to the Washington football team. 1-year deal.
I like it.
I guess they seem like they were kind of looking for a longer term option, maybe, and Matthew Stafford or maybe a Sam Darnold.
Oh, I did hear that. So I did hear that there was a possibility he was going to go there.
So they land on Fitzpatrick, who, similarly to Nick Foles, can kind of go from Fitz magic to Fitz tragic. And it's a roller coaster ride the whole season. Yeah. And some people are saying this is like a slam dunk signing just because he flashed a bit with the Dolphins. But I mean, there's the reason the dude has been on 25 teams, literally, or whatever,
I think he might have played for every single team in the NFL at this point.
he's getting close to that Josh McCown number where he's had almost just played everywhere. So I guess I like it. I think
he's got some good weapons, like that offense isn't completely, horrible. They got Terry. They just signed Curtis Samuel. Fast wide receiving core. They got a good running back core. I don't know how the offensive line is. I don't think it's that great, but I don't think it's that bad either. So I like it. I always love seeing Fitzpatrick start somewhere. And I really think that he kind of got done dirty last season with the Dolphins.
I don't. I'm sorry. I mean, I really don't.
I mean, he was doing good, and then they just put Tua in, and
I think that was the smartest
shit in the bed.
I think that was the smartest thing they could have done actually when they put Tua in, because
right at the peak.
Yeah, there's so many
meaningful football.
There are
right as he starts his career.
There are so many teams that throw a young QB to the wolves in a terrible offense, like a Mitchell Trubisky, and or a Sam Darnold's probably a better example. Just figure it out. And a lot of Josh Rosen, a lot of these guys just sink and they don't swim. And you put Tua into a team that's playing well, and they're not. I mean,
I would have kept him out the entire year then.
The fact that they were even sniffing the playoffs last year was amazing, to say the least, because they were in a terrible spot the last couple of years. So they've been really bad the last couple of years. And I think it was a unique opportunity to throw a young guy into actually a thriving team and see what he's got. Jury's out on Tua. I'm not trying to defend Tua here. I don't really know what to think of him yet, but I think that's a better option than keeping Fitzpatrick out there where you know what you're going to get. He's 36 years old. He's not your long-term answer, but like, what's the point ultimately if you're trying to build a winning team for like years to come? So,
do you think they make the playoffs if they leave Fitzpatrick in?
You say Miami or Washington?
Miami.
The chances are pretty similar.
I do.
They weren't that far out with Tua.
No, they weren't. But I mean, Fitzpatrick put him in that position.
I guess they might have, but they were close to getting it anyways. So who knows? It could have been a coin flip.
The one game that I think they win is against Denver. I remember that game very clearly, and he came in very late in the game because they benched Tua, and I think that they win that game if he's a starter.
Yeah, they put him in a lot of times to be that kind of relief pitcher. That's the word I've been hearing thrown around a lot when it comes to Fitz. And he fit that role well. I don't think Tua wanted anything to do with it anymore, so he goes to Washington now. And besides Taylor Heineke, he doesn't really have a lot of competition. I like the move kind of similarly also to the Patriots signing Cam we kind of touched on last week. I like it if, again, in the draft, they throw a dart on someone and they can groom someone long-term, because Washington needs that. Yeah. Fitzpatrick's 36 years old. Yeah, he might be there for 2 years or what. I mean, quarterbacks play for a while now, but he's not their long-term answer. And it's a good move for this year because they are just a quarterback away, it seems like. But long-term, I don't love the move.
All right, what you got next?
We have Jacoby Brissette signing with the Dolphins.
Another guy that I think can go somewhere and compete for a starting job, but
this one felt more low-key, like he might be competing.
Oh, you think?
I kind of think so. But Brian Flores seems kind of no-nonsense, best player is going to play kind of thing, which is why he had Fitzpatrick go in and do these relief pitcher kind of moments last year. So there are concerns about Tua, and the jury's out, as we kind of touched on a few seconds ago. But Brissett's kind of an interesting signing for them. He's a good backup if he doesn't start. He seems like he was very well liked in Indy and New England. So I like the move as far as the backup goes, and maybe there's something there if Tua doesn't pan out. You've at least got a competent backup who's not going to lose you the game.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely.
All right. So next here, this is probably the most controversial of all the quarterback transactions this offseason so far. It's got many layers to it, it would seem, but the New Orleans Saints re-signed both Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston under contract.
And they signed Taysom Hill to a fat contract.
Yeah, it's well, first off, Drew Brees officially retires, which is not really a surprise to anyone.
No.
Seemed like a long time coming at this point.
He ain't got the juice anymore.
Literally the day that he retired, probably a half hour after, we're seeing reports break that they're extending Taysom Hill to a $140 million contract.
Over what, 4 years?
Over 4 years.
What the That makes no sense.
Everything that I've heard about this so far has seemed like it's not legit. This is a kind of a mirage contract. He's guaranteed a lot of that money, but also they're not. It's a contract that's friendly, so they don't have to really commit to him for the next 4 years for that amount of money. But the weirdest thing is then they go and sign Jameis.
Yeah.
Right after, even this is a weird contract or whatever, however it's structured. The fact is that they brought them both back.
I was seeing a lot of tweets from like NFL reporters saying, it's a good signing, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. I'm not going to dive deep into it and try to figure out, why it's actually like helping their cap situation or.
Yeah, they saved $7 million in the cap from restructuring Taysom Hill's contract the way that it currently is.
Well, that makes absolutely no sense to me and how that's possible. But I mean, the cap is the cap. No cap.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we just say really fast too, for reference here, Dak Prescott just signed a deal for 4 years for $160 million.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill gets a contract for $20 million less. And the dude has not even played 10 games.
Make sense. It doesn't. I get that he's a Swiss Army knife and you can put him anywhere, but I mean, holy the guy can't throw the football.
There's not been a moment that I've seen of him where I'm thinking that, there's no way that they can ever survive without having this guy and they need to lock him up forever.
I don't get it.
I don't understand it. Again, I think the contract is a little bit of a mirage. I think there's something funky going on there, and it's not really what it seems, according to people around the league. But he is signed for the next 4 years on paper, technically, for that much money. And I guess now him and Jameis are going to compete for the starting job, even though one is making that contract.
Dude, if they limp out Taysom Hill as a starting quarterback next year, goodbye playoffs.
He's sneaky old too. I think he's 31.
You're kidding.
No, he's not like a young guy. Like he's halfway through his career, presumably, especially with the style that he plays.
Yeah, he's taking shots he never slides.
No.
He's going to take a shot every time he runs the ball.
He's very physical. He plays that mobile West Coast style, but a lot more just scrambling and running and trick plays and
direct snaps.
It's a weird offense, but it works for them. Okay, so let's kind of flip it to Jameis here because we talked a lot about Taysom Hill. What's Jameis's outlook here? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, he's going to be getting some playing time this year. He has to. There's no way that they're going to start Taysom Hill every game. I really, really have to imagine that it's going to be a similar situation to last year where Jameis now fills Drew Brees' role where, he's taking a majority of the snaps and then on a 3rd and 4, they bring out Taysom Hill, do a direct snap, run off tackle, and they pick up 2 yards and have to punt.
You're paying Taysom Hill that much money to do that.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
And Jameis is the weird to say, but like the bell cow quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's so bizarre.
Yeah. Which I'm excited for. I think Jameis gets a bad rap. He's obviously had some very bad moments, some very bad decisions when it comes to throwing the football. But I think that, in that situation, I think that he can, kind of thrive and prove to everybody that, he's a QB1. And I think that's why it's a 1-year deal.
What's the best possible outcome for the Saints in this scenario? I don't know what it is. I guess I would say that they make Super Bowl, but I'm talking just in terms of with these quarterbacks. What's the best possible outcome? That Taysom Hill balls out and you've got him under a super expensive contract.
The guy grows a new arm and can actually throw the football,
or that Jameis balls out.
And then you got to resign him. Yeah, and it's like, why are you paying Taysom Hill all that money then?
It's really
I don't know. I don't know if it can work out in their favor at this point.
So correct us if we're wrong in the various comment sections of YouTube and whatever else if we just are completely botching this QB tandem situation. But it's bizarre.
I can't imagine that somebody has a better idea than we do.
Well,
not saying that we have the right idea, but
it's kind of just a question mark for everyone.
It is 100%. Like, who knows what they're going to do next season?
Lastly, we have Tyrod Taylor signing with Houston Texans.
Is he going to be the starter? Who knows?
This had some implications to me.
Yeah.
Thinking that he's probably, if Deshaun's not there.
Deshaun might be behind bars for all we know.
Yeah.
7 lawsuits.
Yeah, we won't touch too much on this in this podcast, but yeah, as of this recording, Deshaun Watson is having some off the field issues, to say the least, and some legal troubles.
Crazy.
So, but as far as Tyrod goes, he's fine. He's kind of similar to Jacoby. He's
good backup.
He's a good backup. He's not going to lose you a game, I don't think. He's kind of jumped around from team to team the last couple of years, ever since that Cleveland signing, when he went from Buffalo to Cleveland and they drafted Baker. He seems like he's just been the backup to the young guy, and that's basically been it. Last year to the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Yeah. He had that weird injury that kept him out.
Preposterous injury. I completely forgot about that until now.
We didn't really see too much of him last year.
No, not really. Herbert came in and he won that starting job fair and square.
Yeah,
played good.
Talk about a stark contrast between Tua and Herbert.
Yeah.
Herbert's like locked and loaded, going to be their guy for 20 years probably. Yeah. So I like it. If Deshaun is not there, he's an option.
Serviceable.
He's serviceable.
They're not trying to win anytime soon. I mean, that team is decimated.
I don't know, man. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know if they're blowing it up. I don't know if they're trying to win now.
It does seem like they're blowing it up. I mean, they let JJ walk. They let Fuller walk. Who do they have at wide receiver now?
I believe they have Brandon Cooks and Kenny Stills. A couple other guys, but not too much. So that's it for quarterbacks. Do you want to kind of jump into the next area of free agency here?
Yeah. All right. Flipping the script now, let's move over to the offensive skill positions, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, et cetera, et cetera. Let's lead out with the one that stings the most. Kenny Golladay gets the bag that he deserves with a 4-year, $72 million contract with the New York Giants. 40 of it is guaranteed. 18 mil a year, which I believe was the same amount that we offered him, just a 5-year contract instead of a 4. Good for him. Good for him. I'm not salty about it at all.
Yeah, you can't really see it on audio format.
No, but you can sense the sarcasm a little bit, maybe. But I am upset about it.
Well, why are you upset? Because we offered him basically the same amount of, the Detroit Lions offered him the same amount of money, if not more, than the New York Giants did.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, go from one losing franchise to another. I mean, are the Giants that much better? I mean, I guess they do have a better outlook than we do at the moment. I feel like you can't argue that. They do have a better outlook than we do.
Right now, they have a couple years on us in terms of their rebuild. And
they got some. I mean, with Kenny now, they got some good skill positions.
Well, listen to this offense. They got Daniel Jones, who
question mark. You got to say question mark. He's obviously shown that he can be competent and throw a good ball, but
Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, and
Big Play Slay.
Yeah. The new one, not the former.
Yeah.
And Kenny Golladay.
I mean,
that's a really solid offense.
I think they have a shite offensive line though.
They drafted someone pretty high up last year.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what they're looking at in the draft again this year.
Mm-hmm.
They overpaid.
Good defense, though. Pretty solid from what I can remember.
Right. So
in a division that is horrible.
And they did flash last year.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they beat Seattle and Seattle.
Adding Kenny Golladay to that roster I think it's a good move. They probably, I don't want to say they're overpaying, but he's definitely, that's top of the market contract. And you kind of just,
he's top market wide receiver.
Kenny took his time deciding where he wanted to go. He went and visited a couple teams.
I thank God he didn't sign with the Bears.
Oh, I know.
Oh, God.
I know.
Thank the Lord.
As of this recording, he was the pretty much most recent wide receiver to sign with the team. So it was exciting to see him finally choose his spot. We're going to miss him in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
We wish him all the best. I think the deal makes sense for everyone involved. I'm glad he got paid, and we talked about it in our discussion of Brad Holmes a little bit. But I'm glad we didn't extend him to a 5-year contract when Quinn and Patricia were here, because we'd be locked in for a lot of money for a guy that's right in his prime on a team that's going nowhere for a couple of years. So
that is fair.
It makes sense for him to. He probably just saw the writing on the wall in Detroit and said, "This is not going to work. I'm just going to get what I can get somewhere else and move on."
No, that's totally fair.
Speaking of moving on, who's next?
Marvin Jones, another one, another stinger.
This one was more confusing to me than Kenny.
Goes to Jacksonville on a 2-year, $12.5 million contract. 9 guaranteed. Quite a bit in that guaranteed. That's kind of nice.
I like it because Jacksonville needs weapons for presumably Trevor Lawrence as the team.
I mean,
time will tell.
Yeah.
But I figured he was going to want to go somewhere where he could go compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he goes to the Jaguars.
I mean, who knows?
I'm pretty sure they're not going to compete for a Super Bowl anytime soon.
That's a tough division, too.
Yeah. There are
a lot of good teams in that division.
They're about to get their QB of the future at the number 1 pick, probably. And they got Urban Meyer as a head coach now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
They've been making a lot of additions.
A lot of moves. They also signed Jamal Agnew, which tough, but
now that Darrell Bevell is the OC in Jacksonville, I'm sure he was putting in a good word for Marvin and Jamal Agnew, and I guess that makes it an attractive spot for Marvin. He knows he's going to get production. He got a nice fat contract for the point he's at in his career. He gets to move to sunny Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, no state income tax on that, so he's going to be getting that full contract,
that full 9.
It's a good move for him, I guess, but it was a little surprising, I guess, because we pegged him to be going to LA or a team that's going to go compete for a Super Bowl next year, not the team that's picking number 1 in the draft.
I mean, what an interesting career when you get down to it. He goes from Cincy to Detroit, Jacksonville.
I just realized it's funny. It's all like exotic cats. You got Bengals, Lions, Jaguars. It's kind of funny. Panthers will be his last stop.
That's true. All right. The next one I wanted to touch on was Juju. Interesting decision. He just elects to stay in Pittsburgh for 1 more year, $8 million contract, when he was offered a 1-year, I think, $13 million contract with the Baltimore Ravens, and a 1-year, it might have been $9 or $11 million contract with the Chiefs.
This signing shows me that this dude wants to be a Steeler, because I understand that they didn't offer him, as you would say, buco bucks, for like a long-term deal to stick around, because free agency is kind of weird this season. A lot of guys are signing
1-year deals and not for a lot of money.
But the fact that their arch rival, the Baltimore Ravens, offered him more money in the same amount of time, and he just said no.
I mean, he really could have stuck it to him.
Totally, and the Ravens totally could use his services.
Yeah.
They missed out on a lot of good receivers in this free agency crop. So
nobody wants to go catch balls from Noodle Arm Jackson.
No. So I from that perspective, that if I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I'd kind of be, pumping my fist in the air saying, yeah, he's going to be a Steeler for many years to come, hopefully.
When I was going through Twitter and looking for Kenny Golladay news, I was seeing a lot of, Ravens fans, kind of piping up and saying, come play here. And a lot of times I also got the same, I would start to see threads where Ravens fans and Steelers fans were going back and forth.
That's hilarious.
And Steeler fans were, I almost want to say hoping that Juju left and they don't want him anymore.
Really?
Which, I mean, it's such a small sample size. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. My theory, though, is the Chiefs and the Ravens put in the fine print, no TikToks and no dancing on opponents' 50-yard line on their logo. And he saw the fine print, and he was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh just infamously lets people be psychos on their team, so they can just do whatever you want.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. As long as you're good, do what you want.
Apparently, the Jets are making a big push for Juju as well. They're looking to build some semblance of a receiving core, and whether it's for Sam Darnold or if it's for Zach Wilson or whoever they end up drafting potentially. But
They did make some signings.
Juju says no and sticks in Pittsburgh, so we'll see if it leads to a long-term career in Pittsburgh or if it's just one more shot at the Big Ben Super Bowl run and we're just done after this year, and who knows.
All right, last wide receiver I want to touch on. One that I was quite a bit off on when it came to the fake contract, AJ Green, who received a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals. I pegged him for a 2-year, $34 million contract. But we'll just, leave it at that. What'd you think of the signing?
I was kind of negative on him during our show last week, just talking about how I wouldn't, especially to your proposed deal, I would not sign him
Just a tiny bit off.
So I don't know. It more importantly kind of shows that the Fitzgerald era in Arizona is seemingly coming to an end because he doesn't really have a spot in this roster when they add AJ Green, and they've got a couple young guys. They got Hopkins, so I don't know where Larry fits into the equation, but I don't like it, to be honest with you. The Cardinals have made a couple of head scratcher, like older veteran signings right now with this like seemingly young nucleus of players and a team.
They really do. They don't have a middle ground when it comes to age.
No,
it's either young or old.
I guess I'd be curious to see how much of this money is like guaranteed or whatever, and how the contract.
It's fully guaranteed. It's 1 year, $6 million contract, fully guaranteed.
That's whatever to me. I don't know. I don't expect much from it. It's again just a head scratcher. So
I mean, who knows? I mean, Hopkins is going to get double teamed basically every game next season. I have to imagine.
AJ Green does not have the same like sex appeal as a name brand anymore that he used to back in a couple of years ago.
So I mean, like this one makes sense to me from AJ Green's standpoint, where he's going to go to a team where he's clearly not defined as wide receiver 1. He's going to play wide receiver 2.
I don't even think we'll be that. Are you kidding me?
I think so. I mean, who else they got?
They got like Andy Isabella, Christian Kirk. Those guys fit their system so much better than like AJ Green.
I think AJ Green is going to pop off. I think he's going to have a good year.
He's going to probably just fill the Larry Fitzgerald role.
Probably.
And since Cliff Kingsbury's gotten there, seems like that role's been diminishing. So
that's true.
I
really do think that he'll have some. He'll show that he still got it, in my opinion. And I think that is because he'll show that he can be a good wide receiver 2, and people will think he can still be a wide receiver 1.
The Cardinals are really hoping for these two players in AJ Green and J.J. Watt, who have infamous injury history. They're hoping for them just to play a full 16 games and let's just make a big playoff push in the toughest division in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I'm just ambivalent at this point on it.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting. All right, let's switch over to a couple of running backs. How about Kenyon Drake going from Arizona to Las Vegas? 2-year, $11 million deal. All of it guaranteed.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see how they play this out with, obviously, their running back of the future, Josh Jacobs, and obviously now Kenyon Drake.
I'm a big fan of the running back room rather than just having one Christian McCaffrey, one Saquon Barkley,
the
bell cow running back. I'm much more of a committee system guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what they're playing with these two, is just for them to be the two guys that kind of both share the load of carries. I like it. I think Josh Jacobs obviously is a better running back and has a lot more upside. And He's probably still on his rookie deal, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
So, which is why they can probably swing this.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. The Raiders offense could use another dimension like this. And if they have them both around, it's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is nice having that dynamic. You know, you don't have to rely on Josh Jacobs to carry the ball, 25 times a game anymore.
Which he was doing just fine.
Yeah.
Like he seemed like he was.
Yeah, he had his ups and downs, but just about every running back does. I think to a certain degree it'll probably be like a relief for Josh Jacobs not having to carry the load anymore when it comes to the running game. And he'll have, somebody else that can help pitch in when it comes to that kind of stuff instead of Jalen Richard.
Totally agree. Weirdly enough, my fiance's dad is a big Raiders fan, and he was saying to me, because I texted him when they did the signing what he thought, and he was saying, I just hope they keep Richard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess that he loves him and thinks he's like a really great athlete just in terms of the running back position. So all three of them together, that's pretty good.
I actually forgot. I don't even know if Jalen Richard was technically RB2 because they had Devontae Booker.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, who actually, funny we bring him up, signed a 2-year, $5.5 million deal with the New York Giants.
I did not even hear that news, to be honest with you.
Neither did I. So he'll be going to back up Saquon now, which not a bad backup.
Better backup than having Devontae Freeman last year, who
probably, yeah,
looks shot. So to say it nicely.
Another interesting signing, Mark Ingram goes from former Heisman Trophy winner, goes from Baltimore to Houston on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal.
Just 1 year, you said?
Yep.
Okay, Houston. Whatever. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what we touched on earlier. What's the plan?
Only $500,000 guaranteed, which is kind of interesting.
He's got a relationship with their new head coach. What's his name?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, he was a position coach on the Ravens for a long time.
Okay.
So that's why there was some. I bet there was some kind of chemistry there, and he saw it as a good spot to go because he'll know how to properly utilize Mark Ingram, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So him and David Johnson are now their backfield, and that's like the oldest backfield I think starting in the NFL probably. And with David Johnson's injury history, if he goes down and Mark Ingram is your only guy, and maybe you have because they released Duke Johnson, he's not there anymore. It's not a very good backfield. Mm-hmm. Mark Ingram is much more of a complementary piece at this point in his career, and if he wasn't making it work last year on the Ravens, which is a pretty run heavy team, I don't really see his upside anywhere else like panning out.
Quite a fall from grace for him, because he was hardly in the rotation last year.
Running backs fall out fast.
Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So, pretty much it for running backs. Let's switch over to tight ends. New England secures 2 tight ends, probably the top 2 tight ends available. Jonnu Smith from Tennessee on a 4-year, $50 million contract. One of the ones that I was relatively close on. I said 3-year, $40 million deal.
We did call that one, by the way. I was listening to the show, listening to it back while editing, and I remember saying Johnny the Patriots makes sense. So we got one.
And then they also signed former Los Angeles Charger Hunter Henry to a 3-year, $37.5 million deal.
I of all the Patriots' frenzy of free agents that they acquired, I think these 2 are the best. They make the most sense for them because they infamously had the greatest tight end duo in the history of the NFL, arguably. So adding these 2 guys who are both in their prime to an offense that desperately needed some juice, I like these signings a lot, and I'm curious to see if it's going to be a similar kind of split between the tight end action between the 2, like if it's going to be a 50-50 thing or if it's going to be
both on the field at the same time.
Who knows?
Deal. Yeah.
I'm excited to see Bill Belichick cook with 2 tight ends that are good again. We've had to watch a lot of not very interesting tight end since Gronk left. So it's good to have some actual flavor.
Some firepower. Yeah, absolutely.
The money's kind of a lot, but they don't seem to really care.
No, they're really spending a lot this offseason. I think obviously I think it's a great signing for both of them. I think that they're going to flourish in that system. They know how to do a 2 tight end system already. And I think that, they'll both shine there. I really do think that.
But they have Cam Newton as their quarterback.
That's the question mark. Absolutely.
He can do a lot of little
dink
and dunk.
It's going to be dink and dunk offense. They're going to get 9 catches for 90 yards a game, I would assume.
Calling them now, they're both going to be fantasy darlings.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like it's tough to do that when there's 2 of them. But, I mean, Hernandez and Gronk did it a couple years back. So
if anyone can make the 2 of them into elite fantasy players, it would be the New England Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely. We can touch on how Gronk returns to Tampa Bay for another year, which I think is a little surprising. I would have figured that he would have, hung up the cleats again after winning that Super Bowl, but
he seems like he's just having fun.
Yeah.
So I think the reason he kind of quit out on the Patriots was because he was super banged up injury-wise and also not having very much fun.
Yeah.
But now he's seemingly rejuvenated a bit, and he's with Tom, and they're at the top of the mountain, and he's in Tampa, and it's just party town, and why not?
And it really seems like he doesn't have to turn it on until they need him to.
They got 18 other weapons. They don't necessarily need him to be what he was in New England, who was just the number one threat on that offense, receiving-wise. So it's very on brand for Gronk to want to come back, I think.
And I mean, a 1-year, $8 million deal.
Whatever.
Absolutely. Come on back.
These are the moves that they got to make if they want to just get the band back together and compete. They got to just keep all these guys around.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Quickly touching on not the sexiest aspect, but obviously very important, the offensive linemen that signed some big contracts. Starting out with a team that really needed some good help on the offensive line, the Kansas City Chiefs, who signed the guard Joe Thuney from New England to a 5-year, $80 million deal. Arguably the best guard out there. So huge help to Patrick Mahomes in keeping him healthy. I like the signing. I think they desperately needed to get some guys in there after releasing the 2 tackles.
This makes it pretty clear as to why they made the changes that they made at the offensive line. They released Eric Fisher and I believe Mitchell Schwartz, both gone.
Yeah,
those are 2 key pieces. They drafted Fisher number 1 overall 7-8 years ago or whatever.
A long time ago.
It was a big shift.
I think he's from CMU, by the way.
He is.
Yeah. Fire up chips.
Sure. So they needed to make a big splash here, and they still have a lot of work to do on the O-line to get Patrick Mahomes protection here for hopefully for years to come. Joe Thuney's still pretty young in terms of offensive lineman.
29.
Yeah, about 20, 29. So that's a good spot to be in his career. It makes them better, but like I said, they still have some holes to fill. So this is a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. And then Trent Williams, who my fake contract was 3 years, $60 million, wasn't completely far off. Just miscalculated by $3 million on a yearly average. So Trent Williams stays with the San Francisco 49ers on a 6-year, $138 million deal.
How old is he?
Secured the bag. He's 33, so they're expecting him to play to 39.
That is outrageous.
Yeah. Total guaranteed was 55.1.
This is insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I can't imagine that he plays that out.
Andrew Whitworth for the Rams is one of the oldest offensive linemen in football. I don't even think he's that old, and he's probably going to be out pretty soon. I mean,
Trent Williams is a phenomenal tackle.
And he's got severe injury history.
I feel like, he sat that year out because he was F the Redskins football team.
Well, he had like a legit medical reason that he needed to not play. Also.
But I think he was cleared at some point.
Okay.
And it was like, I'm not playing because you guys screwed me up.
Okay, but regardless, it's still a big red flag.
It is 100%. That's a like, okay, here we go.
This has got to be a deal similarly to Taysom Hill, where it's structured in a way that they can dip out of this if they have to.
Yeah, I have to imagine.
That's the thing with a lot of these contracts is people read Taysom Hill $140 million 4 years, but we do have to keep in mind that these teams aren't like we're just some jabronis talking about football. They know the contract situation is better than us, and they are perfectly aware, unless you're the Houston Texans or something, of how to get out of a bad contract or like not to completely screw yourself over. So this seems like a situation where I would really hope they have that stuff figured out with him.
Yeah. It's interesting. The 2021 cap hit is $8 million, which that seems like it means he's going to be a huge cap hit on the back end of that deal.
Oh, boy.
So that's interesting.
Don't like it.
Yeah. And, who's he going to protect?
Yeah.
I mean, you got that fat contract for Garoppolo. Are they going to try to unload that? Who knows?
Yeah, thinking about it now, that's kind of interesting that they're one of the teams who's been weirdly silent on the quarterback front. Not even a backup, not even someone to come in and like be the backup to Jimmy G because he probably will go down.
Yeah.
So they got to either be looking at the draft or they got to be looking at like a Sam Darnold or maybe Watson if everything kind of crumbles further. Yeah. So I don't know.
Who knows? All right. So switching over to the defensive side, in the secondary, we had a couple signings. Somebody who was paid quite a bit was Shaq Griffin, who went from Seattle to Jacksonville, filling the hole of Jalen Ramsey, I presume. 3-year, $40 million deal.
Well, I don't want to pretend that Shaq Griffin is even in the same Shaquille Griffin. There's a Shaq Griffin and Shaquille Griffin. Yeah. That he's even in the same ballpark as Jalen Ramsey. I mean,
you think?
No, definitely not. Jalen Ramsey's like top 3 in the league corner wise, and Shaquille Griffin's kind of like
he's got that potential.
Shaquille Griffin's kind of he's very solid.
He's 26.
Okay, so he's
very
a younger side. I guess I like it. I don't know. They're just kind of throwing some money around and trying to see what sticks, I guess, which seems like a very Jacksonville Jaguars way of doing things. I kind of like it. They need help there, obviously. Yeah. So sure.
No, I like it. I think he'll add a dimension to that defense. I think that he'll be able to do the same thing that he was doing in Seattle. Lock down wide receiver 1. And
do you know who's playing opposite of him?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
The safety Jalen Mills, who was in Philadelphia, picks up the bag from New England, who makes another signing. 4-year, $24 million deal. Pretty good for a safety, I would say. $6 million a year. I don't know too much about him, but I mean, if New England's signing him, he's probably got some upside.
It's just so surprising to see Bill throwing around the bag of money to people, like actually making a lot of big acquisitions here. At least now we were talking about last week. We were talking about how what's the plan for them, right?
Yeah.
Like they signed Cam and we were like, okay, well, now what? Like, what's your direction? This is a signing along with all their other free agent acquisitions that they're making a pretty clear push.
Yeah.
They feel like that they're a playoff team and they can compete. So good for them.
I would agree with that 100%. They seem to have a plan in place and they're executing it to perfection at the moment.
Never made this many big free agent signings that I can remember, but the last time that they paid top of market value to a secondary player was Stephon Gilmore. And we all know that dude is probably the best corner in the NFL.
Yeah,
probably.
Definitely up there.
So it forebodes well for them, I would say.
Yeah. Lastly, the last guy we want to touch on, going to our rivals who we can't seem to beat. Patrick Peterson signs a 1-year, $8 million deal. I was kind of off on that with the Minnesota Vikings. It seems like a good signing for them.
I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, they needed somebody because I'm pretty sure that core of cornerbacks is extremely young and not very established. So
Their
bringing
defense,
in a veteran like that,
right? Their defense is a mixed bag of pretty young guys and also older veterans who are getting up there. So he kind of fits the latter. He's still got juice for sure. Like he can still play. And like I said, I think on last week's show or the first show, I was saying that he seems like a guy who will go play with his hair on fire when he gets to his new spot. He's been wanting to change of scenery for a while. So I think that could happen. And it's going to be a problem for us probably. I don't know how many more years he's going to be, a lethal lockdown corner.
Yeah, but to his credit, I mean, we're not very threatening with our wide receiver core at the moment.
Hey, Rashad Perriman, man.
Yeah. So he probably will have some good games against us. Who knows?
I like the signing.
Yeah, it seems good for them. This is completely off topic and should probably go into the Lions portion, but who was that asshole that we signed from them last season? Who said he was
Iverson Griffin.
Iverson Griffin, thank you. I just completely forgot about him. Well, is he still on our team?
He signed a deal with Dallas actually, and then we traded for him.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that was a 2-year deal, so I want to say he might still be on this roster. I'm probably wrong on that, but
that will be interesting. All right, let's switch over to linebackers. Enough about Iverson Griffin.
This is what really gets you pumping.
Yes, little disappointing that we didn't go after any of these guys. I can understand why. They seem to have a plan, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. But it certainly would have been nice to get one of these guys. We'll start out with Bud Dupree, who's going from Pittsburgh to Tennessee on a 5-year, $82.5 million deal. Good signing for Tennessee.
They seem like they've stripped away a couple pieces on defense, especially some of the veterans who've been there for a couple years to presumably make room for a big splash signing like this or add some other pieces. But it's a good fit. I think Tennessee is right in that window where they are still very much competing. And this is the kind of team where a signing like Bud Dupree makes sense. They're in the thick of it. Bud Dupree's in his prime. He doesn't have to do all the work by himself. He's surrounded by a pretty talented unit. So I like it.
I don't know. Their defense was the question last season.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think they had the worst defense when it came to third down conversions.
See, the year before they were so good though.
Yeah,
that's what throws me off.
I don't know, but yeah, their defense could not get off the field for the life of them. So bringing in Bud Dupree, I think, is extremely smart, and you got to pay that guy whatever he wants if you're going to have him on his team, on your team. So I like that signing. Shaquille Barrett stays with Tampa Bay. Very smart on their part. 4-year, $68 million deal. I think this is another guy that I had a fake contract for. I said 5-year, 125, so a tad bit off. I actually had one for Bud Dupree too. He was 4 years, 105. So again, a tad bit off. But keeping the band together.
I guess that Chris Godwin tag makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah.
We're kind of scratching our head on it and saying, why wouldn't you tag a guy like Shaq Barrett or one of these defensive pieces? Because those are the guys seemingly you need to keep together.
Yeah. And they probably had no doubt this guy's going to come back, especially with the contract we're offering him. I'm
glad to see him come back. It's really fun to watch him play on this team, and they needed him, and there's not really too much more to say on it. They seem like they're just trying to recreate the magic last year, and I'm not going to be.
He was a key piece of that.
I'm not going to be the one to tell them they can't do it.
Yeah. So I definitely think that's a great signing for them. Circling back to the team that seems to be making the most moves, New England. They signed former Baltimore Raven Matthew Judon to a 4-year, $54.5 million deal.
This was really surprising. This was the move to kind of start off their run.
It kicked it off for them. Yeah.
I just saw that. I was like, whoa, okay. They're adding that expensive of a piece on their defense. Bill Belichick's doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good fit. They need to add some juice to their linebacking core, and Judon is he's a beast. It's going to be a scary defense.
Yeah, I mean that is going to be the key part to that defense now.
You think he's going to be kind of the captain of that defense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so, especially in that linebacking core, that front seven core of people. I mean, he is by far. I can't tell you who else is on that front seven, who is in the linebacking core, other than Kyle Van Noy. I couldn't tell you anything else about that front seven. So I think he is by far the most established person and is probably going to be leading that crew out there. So I think that's a great signing for them.
Man, way to stick in Baltimore's face that I'm out. You're going to go to one of their arch rivals. I know Baltimore's got a lot seemingly, but
certainly a ginormous middle finger on the way out.
Have fun playing for Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I don't think he's not the DC, but
all right, let's switch it up to defensive lineman. Trey Hendrickson went from New Orleans to the Cincinnati Bengals on a 4-year, $60 million deal. Good for them,
This actually is kind of a head scratcher because they had a defensive end free agent, Carl Lawson.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's the same age, has played there and has been good and got himself a contract somewhere else. But it was for less money than Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
They signed Trey Hendrickson, who really flashed last year for New Orleans, and they let a homegrown talent go somewhere else for less. It's kind of confusing to me. Cincinnati always seems like they're very much, we're going to just groom all the talent in-house and we're going to re-sign our guys, and that's how they've been going for a long time. They're not really big spenders in free agency, so this was a very confusing move to me.
Yeah. No, now that you put it like that, that certainly is a rather interesting deal.
I'm glad we did not sign him in Detroit.
I mean, looking at that contract, I mean, I would much rather take Romeo at 3 years, $37 million, than take Trey at 4 years, $60 million deal. So speaking of the devil, Carl Lawson goes from Cincinnati to the New York Jets on a 3-year, $45 million deal. So same amount of money. Again, Carl Lawson is a year younger. So, I mean, I guess Cincinnati really just felt that Trey was better than Carl.
I guess. As far as the New York Jets angle of it, they need help on every side of the ball that they can get. So I'm glad that they put a little bit of money into someone who's on the younger side and has a lot of upside still.
Yeah.
He doesn't have Greg Williams around him to ruin him, so that'll be good.
Well, I mean, Greg Williams is a great defensive coordinator.
But now he's got Robert Saleh.
Oh, true.
Legit great defensive coordinator.
No, that's very true. He's much better. All right. Last guy that I want to touch on before I list off some of these names that are still available to you. Yannick Ngakoue signs a 2-year, $26 million deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. Great signing by them.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
I think that is a steal and a half.
Absolutely. We talked about it a little bit on the show last week in terms of teams who could use his service. I mean, you would ideally want to lock him up for 4 to 5 years because he's still so dang young. But Vegas got some much-needed help on their D-line. A guy who's right in his prime, who's definitely, I wouldn't say he's like top 10 or anything right now, but he's in the upper echelon.
He is.
Okay.
I really think so. I'm not saying, what'd you say, top 5?
Yeah, I'd say he's probably not the top 10.
No. I think he was around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think so.
Regardless, he's definitely in the upper echelon of defensive.
He had a pretty crazy season last year. Like it's tough to get momentum when you're flip-flopping teams like that so constantly. So
I guess Jacksonville is more of the sample size that we should look to.
Yeah.
He had some really,
but I mean,
really
like he had a decent season last year from what I can remember. He had a couple sacks, and whether that was with Baltimore or Minnesota. So I think that that's a great signing for them.
It is. I do kind of wonder where this puts Mayock's infamous first-round draft pick, Cleveland Farrell, in the situation because he kind of overdrafted him. Seemingly, he's been solid, but he's not been. They took him like in the top 10.
Who?
Right. They took him in the top 10 as an edge rusher, and so far, another younger guy, Max Crosby, has really outshined him on the defensive line and has been a much more productive defensive end. So if you have Crosby, who's already pretty good, and then you add Ngakoue, where does the former top 10 first-round draft pick kind of fit into the equation?
That's a great question.
You can rotate those guys, I guess, and it's a pretty good rotation.
Yeah, but I mean, is that a rotation piece?
Right. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah, so a couple names that have not been signed yet, but are interesting. Gino Atkins.
He's not been signed yet?
No, 33. I mean, would you take a chance on him?
If I'm the Detroit Lions, no. But
no.
I mean,
I think we need like a solid defensive tackle.
Well, I guess if he's, I don't know, if his contract is kind of friendly and it's not. I just naturally think of these guys who are a little older and getting closer to the end and the beginning of their career. Just like, why would you want to go play for some bum ass team like the Lions or like someone who's at the bottom of the league right now? Like, wouldn't you want to go play for a contender? But I guess at the same time, your options are probably also kind of limited because teams are they're looking
probably not too keen on signing.
It's more about the options on the table rather than I'd like to play here kind of thing. So if I'm a team who's close to the top and I just need to add that, like a Tampa Bay makes complete sense, like adding him there if they can afford it. I don't know if they can, but
they probably can. I mean, I would imagine that Gino's going to get a 1-year deal.
Just watch him sign with the Texans.
Yeah. Another name that, God, Jadeveon Clowney's 28.
Really? I didn't know that.
God.
I didn't know he was still out there.
I would have pegged him to be 36.
No, come on.
Oh, man. I can't believe that guy's that young. God, I mean, how many teams has he played for?
Oh, God.
Only 3, I think, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. I think he played
about
for
to be 4.
Texans. Yeah, Texans, Titans.
Dude, he's like
Seattle.
He's like Ndamukong Suh reincarnated because this dude is like, I just want my bag of money. Like, I don't care who it is or where. Just like, I want that cash.
I mean,
I'll go where
his career in general is so interesting to me because he literally was made on one play. And that was the play against Michigan in whatever bowl they were in, where he literally just blew past an offensive lineman and literally knocked the living out of a running back. Recovered the fumble that he created. And after that, he was like, I'm the best defensive lineman in the draft for the past 20 years.
You know what? Compare these two, okay? You have Jadeveon Clowney, number 1 overall pick by Houston, and then you have Myles Garrett, the number 1 overall pick by Cleveland.
Oh, Myles
and
Garrett
they played the same position.
Myles Garrett seems light years ahead.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right?
They were smart. They locked him up for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They got him under contract, and that dude is a wrecking
monster.
Jadeveon Clowney has been a very good defensive
good.
Elite. Definitely. But number 1 overall pick, I don't think it's panned out to that.
No. I would definitely agree. And I mean, again, in like recent years, I mean, he hasn't done much.
I remember Seattle traded. Actually, I was going to say they traded a bunch, but they didn't. They traded like a 3rd-round pick because Houston doesn't know what they're doing. So they traded basically nothing for him. And cool. I mean, if he can find somewhere that will pay him the money he wants, because I'm sure that's the big stipulation right now. I'm sure there are lots of teams who are salivating at the chance to have him on the roster, but are you going to pay the dude $16 million for 1 year to come play for you? Because,
I mean, the fact that he's 28 is just wild. That's wild to me.
He's got a lot of treading tires left.
Yeah. All right, 2 more names I want to throw out there that are kind of actually, you know what? Now I'm looking at it. One quick name: Iverson Griffin is a free agent.
Okay, that's good to know.
34 years old.
Won't be coming back to Detroit.
Don't come back.
Yeah.
Somebody who, let me just throw it out there. I think it would be interesting if he came back. Ndamukong Suh.
I like it.
I mean, like, why not?
So he is a free agent right now?
Yeah, he's 34. 1 year.
Well, just as a pure nostalgia trip, it'd be fun to see him come back. we need help on the D line.
Yeah.
So
we could use a good defensive tackle, and I mean, I don't think he's that bad.
it's actually kind of a nasty, like defensive line. Think about it if you had Aquara, Michael Brockers, and Sue.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Trey Flowers.
Okay. I don't know about the last one, but
yeah. But yeah, no, he's still out there, so I mean that's interesting.
He'll get work. And
he will 100%.
My money says he ends up back in Tampa.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah.
How much money do they have at this point? I don't know.
Yeah, great question. All right, last guy that I wanted to touch on, Ryan Kerrigan from Washington, 33 years old, defensive end. I mean, do you take a shot on him? Obviously not at this point for Detroit.
No.
Because, I mean, we got our defensive ends.
I guess. I mean, he's been pretty good his whole career. He's been consistently one of the leaders in that defense. I'm surprised they let him go. Yeah, me too. To be honest with you. I mean, of course we're saying that, but he could very well end up back in Washington. That's a good point. Yeah. That we kind of last week we were kind of all the guys who didn't get the tag or whatever. We were like, okay, where are they leaving? A lot of guys did sign back too, so it's a possibility. But you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. You know where he would be a great fit, and I'm just thinking this because I don't know why, but New England. I mean, come on. Yeah, that seems like a New England signing, does it not? He kind of seems like he's like a Patriot way kind of dude. Exactly. Yeah. So I imagine the damage Matt Patricia could cook up with that guy. Yeah, no, it would be interesting. All right, what do you say we switch over to some Lions talk? Yeah, we got to talk about their acquisitions, and then we're also going to take a walk down memory lane with Matthew Stafford. Get the tissues. Let's go Lions! All right, now we're switching it over to the good part of the show. Just kidding, the entire show is phenomenal. But the Detroit Lions have been making some free agent signings, been making some trades. So some pretty interesting stuff. To be expected because this roster is a skeleton crew right now. So. Absolutely. So let's take a look at who's going to be filling this skeleton crew. We have kind of touched on it already, but thank God Romeo Okwara is back. Absolutely. 3-year, $37 million deal. Great signing, in my opinion. Well worth it. We were talking about it in our franchise tag segment last week, just saying how it wouldn't make any sense for us to let him walk and then go sign a Trey Hendrickson or someone like that. So I'm so glad to see he's back. I really thought he was going to go get a bag of money. I thought he was going to leave too. So that makes me ecstatic that he's back. And I'm pumped he wants to be here. Like he was through this show with Patricia and Quinn, and he still is like, I've got faith that we're going to be good. I'm going to stay here. He gets to play with his brother still, so that's cool. I love it. He's by far the best player on our defensive line, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. So in the quarterback position, we'll touch on it a little bit later, but we trade for Jared Goff. That officially goes through. Yep. And then we sign the Green Bay Packer, Tim Boyle. I didn't even know that. Okay. Yeah, no, he signs for a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. He's obviously just going to be the backup. Well, it sounds like, as of this recording, I don't know what the situation is, but it sounds like Chase Daniel was shopped, and then no one came back, so he was cut. He was cut. Yeah, he was cut. Okay, so we had to eat some money with that, I'm sure. But you know what? See you later. Yeah. Good riddance. Tim Boyle. I mean, has anybody ever seen him play in professional? I guess just preseason tape, probably, but. I mean, who knows? It makes sense for him not to go back to Green Bay because of they have Jordan Love, yeah. So not much of a role for him there. QB2. Yeah, I like it right now. I think I'd still like to see them make another acquisition, whether it's the draft or by the time the dust settles, when all the free agents are kind of signed. Let's see what happens. I think that's it for this year, in my opinion. I don't think there's any chance that they take somebody in the draft. But Goff did have an interesting comment about that during his press conference on Friday.
Somebody asked him, like, have you talked with Brad and Dan about drafting a QB at 7?
Yeah, he's basically just like, it's not my job.
He said, don't ask me that question. He didn't say that exactly, but he basically said, like, we have had conversations about it, and I'll let them answer that. So, and then Brad Holmes obviously just deflected and was like, I can't rule anything out at a top 10 draft pick, which phenomenal answer. Completely agree.
I like this signing in terms of just let's boost Jared Goff up.
Yeah.
This gives him a chance. Like, if this is it, if this is the only 2 quarterbacks in the depth chart,
I really do think it will be.
Then I think that's the best thing for Goff possible. Yeah. Because if we really do feel like we're going to roll the dice on him and see if he's got anything to offer,
I definitely think they give him a year.
You need to give him a chance.
Yeah.
So this makes sense in that regard.
I definitely think they give him a year, and then next year they probably draft somebody. I would hope and pray that they let him sit behind Goff for a year. So give Goff 2 years, let him sit behind Goff for a year. Let's see if he can pick it up, and then let him start the 3rd year.
I'm telling you, man, I think based on that press conference that Goff had and the way that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have been talking about him, I think they really want to see if he's legit and they can give him a legit shot.
That's why I think it's 2 years.
I don't know if they're going to take a QB unless they just have the dream scenario sitting there at 7.
Yeah, no, I think, if he plays good this year, I don't think they take a quarterback unless it's, like 4th or 5th round.
Right.
Which, at that point, you're taking a backup. So,
remember how good Brad Kaya was?
Who?
Who's next?
Jamal Williams. We signed him to a 2-year, $6 million deal. Another Green Bay Packer. I like the signing because I think he is good. I think he will serve well as an RB2. Part of me doesn't like the signing because I'm a big fan of Kerrigan.
I was going to say, you just slot him in at RB2.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, absolutely. I definitely think he will be. But it pains me to say that because I am a big fan of Kerrigan. And I think that he just continuously with this team gets the shaft.
I am also kind of bummed to see Kerrigan kind of getting sidelined here.
I know. Me too. It's a huge bummer.
But maybe it's just a three rotation. Maybe Swift is the main guy. Maybe you put Jamal Williams on like 3rd down plays, and maybe Kerrigan's kind of just like a Swiss Army knife to put him in just like situational spots. And I think they have a committee, so it makes sense to add another piece. But he's a pretty prominent piece, which is why it's kind of like I don't want to say a head scratcher, but it's interesting.
Yeah. The other aspect to this that makes me nervous for Kerrigan is that Kerrigan is solidified on the team as the pass blocking running back. Jamal Williams is good at that too. Okay. He's one of the better backs in the league at that aspect of the game. So it almost feels like Jamal is replacing Kerrigan, which I don't like, but it's fine. At the wide receiver position, we have 2 signings. That core gets some much needed attention.
Still not very good,
whether or not it's phenomenal or not, but
you're throwing around the word phenomenal.
Yeah, it's definitely not. But it gets some much needed attention and some, like throwaway contracts.
Well, the two
Tyrod Williams, 1 year, $4 million deal. Rashard Perriman, 1 year, $3 million deal.
You remember how we were talking about with the Cardinals? We were like, man, we really hope that J.J. Watt and A.J. Green go out there and play a full 16 games and don't get injured.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with these two.
You think?
Yeah, because Tyrod Williams has been banged up. He was banged up last year. There's a reason he didn't re-sign with Vegas or get – I don't think he got much more interest around the league. And Perriman has been very flash in the pan. Sometimes he looks like unbelievable. Sometimes he's like, who? Where is he?
Yeah.
So
I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't know either of these guys.
Yeah, Perriman's kind of bounced around. He was a first-round pick by the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow, really? I did not know that.
And then he went to the Bucs, and then he went to the Jets. And I think on both those teams, he had his moments, but was ultimately expendable for those teams who, by the way, the Bucs, when they did let him walk, they were trending upward on the receiver depth chart. Like they had a pretty solid Mike Evans and Godwin. They didn't have what they have now, which is like they have so many weapons growing in trees. So they let him walk, but the Jets let him walk, and the Jets have like garbage receivers. So
well, I mean, they were making room for what they have now,
I guess,
which is a good crew.
I don't know, man. It seems like it's either really gonna miss or it's gonna hit. I don't have.
My thing is like it's whatever. Like, you know, we're shipping this season. As much as Jared Goff said in his press conference, this is not a rebuild. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so, I don't know why you're saying that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he can't come out and be like, yeah, we're rebuilding.
Why not, though?
Why not? It's just, you know,
we are
for looks. It has to be. So, like, you know, you don't want your head quarterback, the guy that you just traded for, coming out there and being like, yeah, I expect us to lose this season.
He's going to look even more dumb, though, if it ends up being that, oh, I don't think this team needs to rebuild, and then we end up going 2-14.
Well, I mean, like, he can't come out and say that. He just can't. It's a mentality thing, I guess. You know, like, he can't just be like, oh, yeah, I mean, we're going to be horrible this season. I'm sorry, real quick, again on the wide receiver core. Who's wide receiver 1 this season? Who do you think? Is it Cephas?
Probably Tyrod Williams.
You think?
Yeah, Cephas didn't do enough last year to really cement himself as a. I mean, I guess on a garbage roster.
I would put him bare minimum wide receiver 2.
You have to see what you have with him.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I would say number 1 is Williams, number 2 Cephas, number 3 Perriman, and don't forget
do they draft at 7? Do they draft a wide receiver at 7?
No.
From our Twitter feed, it does seem like people want them to draft that at 7. I don't want them to.
You know, it's so scary.
We can get somebody later.
I've seriously. There were some mocks going around, and I was listening to some local radio, and they were talking about the possibility of the Lions drafting Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I've seen that too. So
Lucas just shuddered in real time. By the way, I saw him he jumped a little bit when I said that.
So there are people saying that, but the belief is he won't play tight end because he has a very wide receiver build. He's very extremely pass catching focus. So a lot of people believe that he's just going to transition into a wide receiver role once he makes it to the league. So if they do pick him at 7, while I won't be ecstatic, I won't be flipping the out.
Well, they better come out day 1 and say, hey, he's not guaranteed to be a tight end. We don't know what he's going to be.
Well, they have to because, I mean, my Lord, would that be horrible. With Hawkinson, Josh Hill, we just signed.
And he's from Florida.
Yeah.
With Jared Davis and Tease Tabor at the same school. We don't have a good track record.
No, we don't. Yeah.
All right, who's next?
Well, I mean, we just touched on him a little bit. So Josh Hill comes over from New Orleans on a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. It's like,
I like it.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, a good backup tight end.
Dan Campbell just working with people that he's familiar with, and he clearly saw enough that he liked him. So
at this point, you know, are we the Detroit Rams or are we the Detroit Saints?
How old is he?
He is 31.
All right, so a little on the older side, but it's now that Jesse James is gone, it's a good backup spot for Hawkinson.
Yes,
I'm sure.
Yes, and a more affordable, more, you know, it makes sense with this contract.
And maybe too, it's one of those things where he comes over from New Orleans working with a lot with Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell was the tight ends coach in New Orleans.
Yeah,
maybe he can kind of guide Hawk and say, hey, this is, you know, in this system, do this, do that.
A good vet.
Exactly, a good presence for Hawkinson. So I think it's mostly a beneficial move in that department. As far as his production on the field, I don't expect too much, but for Hawk, it's good.
Yeah. So on the defensive side, we signed Charles Harris, who
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
actually.
he was a former first-round pick. He played in Miami for a couple of years. He went to Atlanta last year, I think, or maybe a couple seasons ago, and we signed him to a 1-year, $1.75 million deal. A lot of people are looking at it like a rotational piece on the defensive line. He had a couple sacks in Atlanta last year. So I don't hate it. You know, again, it's a throwaway contract. It's 1 year. It's 1.75 mil. Who cares? With somebody who hasn't gotten to their full potential. You know, like he's a first round pick for a reason.
Yeah.
People saw potential in him. So, you know, like maybe with more a rotational piece and coming in and who knows, maybe does a couple things here and there and can kind of show what he's made of. So
we just need players. So
yeah, exactly.
Contracts like this that let's roll the dice and see what happens. Those are the kind of moves
you can't
I like.
hate that.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously touched on Okora, and then we trade. What was it? A 6th, 7th round pick for Michael Brockers from the Rams.
We should also talk about the fact that Michael Brockers, I think maybe a day or two before the trade, has a quote floating out there saying that the Rams are getting a big upgrade in quarterback jump from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff.
I was talking to my dad about this, and have you listened to that interview?
It's taken out of context.
So yes, from my understanding, this is what my dad is telling me. So who knows? From my understanding, that was really like egged on. Like they were saying, like they were literally trying to get him to say Stafford is better than Goff.
That's toxic.
So yeah. So I don't read too much into it. They got him dirt cheap.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, give me for a trade, and then re-sign him to a 3-year, $24 million deal, which I don't hate that either. Like they're establishing a defensive line, and if he is good, then by all means, like let's get this thing settled out. Let's get it figured out.
He's a bit older though. That's one of the things that's kind of a
and at this point, I really don't think that's what we need. Like obviously I think that is a very possible position that we draft.
30 years old.
Okay. So yeah, I mean that would be ideal for us to draft a guy in that position either this year or next year. Let him sit behind him, let him learn, let him get up to speed, and then throw him out there and see what we got.
He's a good player, and I guess
I believe he was a captain on the Rams defense, which obviously that is a well-established defense.
These Rams transactions, I'm having to think that Brad Holmes, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he understands the character of these guys and that he understands the players that he's acquiring. So I guess I'll drink the Kool-Aid on it, and I kind of like it. Anything's an improvement over last year's unit for sure.
Yeah. And then on the special teams, we signed back 2 key pieces of that portion. Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Well, that's his name. He's more of a linebacker, but
he is, but he's critical to our special teams.
Okay.
And that's where he plays mostly.
Okay.
And Don Molbeck, who's a long snapper. He's 40 years old. That's all he does. So fantastic, terrific.
I thought you were starting to chuckle. I thought you were going to talk about Fat Randy.
Oh,
speaking of special teams,
Fat Randy, coined by PFT from Part of My Take. A downgrade from Matt Prater, no doubt. But yeah, all right, yeah, cool.
Okay,
like let's just pray that he can hit some field goals. I don't know.
Why didn't we keep Prater? If we're bringing just another veteran in, like what was the harm with keeping Prater? He's been a consistent kicker for us.
I mean, it's got to be a cheaper deal. And I mean, it seems like that's what they're doing with every position.
We're going to need a lot of field goals next year, though, to even have some semblance of a scoring team.
No way, dude. Goff's going to throw for 60 touchdowns.
Okay, 60 is a pretty high number.
He's going to break the record.
I was thinking more of the 45-50 realm, but
yeah. We obviously cut a lot of people. This past week it was Joe Dahl and Oh God, who did we cut on the defensive end or the defensive line? Danny Shelton, who we signed last year.
No, he wasn't bad last year. I think that defense was a dumpster fire, as we've touched on many times. But him and Jamie Collins were actually somewhat decent additions. Who they came in and they weren't great necessarily, but they definitely were good role players, and they were consistently some of the better parts of that awful defense. So he was owed some money though, so I'm kind of ambivalent.
They're cutting those contracts. They just didn't make any sense.
I've been hearing an interesting term about what's going on with this team right now. They're bloodletting. they're just like, look, it sucks right now. We got to gut this thing. We got to get rid of these garbage contracts, and we got to start from ground zero, and that's cool with me.
And interesting thought. Coleman gets cut, goes to Miami on a 1-year, $2.75 million deal. Bob Quinn was paying that guy $9 million a year.
That's so bad. Oh my God. Smartest man in the room,
brother. So I like what they're doing. I like a lot of these signings.
I think the draft is going to be where we're going to see the biggest amount of just overall just change and like turnaround of this roster.
It is going to be so interesting to see what they do at 7.
We've got a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah, so whether it's trade down, draft a wide receiver, draft a linebacker, which fingers crossed. Actually, what would be phenomenal would be that San Francisco trade where we trade down to 11 and still get Micah Parsons.
That'd be unbelievable.
So, golly, that is going to be exciting.
We'll have lots of coverage on that, but as we eke closer to it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now switching gears, still talking about Lions, but I'm going to touch on a rather touchy subject. The official trade of Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff and, what was it, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick?
Yeah, a first-round pick in next year's draft, so the 2022 draft, and the 2023 draft. You got one. We also got a third-round pick for this year's draft.
Yeah. So that officially goes through. Jared Goff is a Lion. We saw his press conference on Friday. Believe it or not, Matthew Stafford had his first press conference.
I didn't even watch
on Friday. I saw one little clip where people are speculating that he was also watching Jared Goff's press conference at the same time that his press conference was going on. So yeah, it end of an era.
I wonder if he felt weird during that, like Rams press conference, just watching Jared. If he was watching Jared Goff be introduced to the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. I wonder if he was just kind of like, okay, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah.
To just start it off here, I never thought this day would come.
No.
I always thought Stafford would be a Lion until the day he retired.
Yeah. I also saw a TikTok that was just so strange where it was the Rams, the official account, and they were taking a video of Stafford walking into, what is it, Stadium?
Or SoFi, sorry.
SoFi Stadium for the first time. And, they had a big banner up on there saying, like, welcome to LA, Matt. And, he's kind of just taking a look at it for the first time. And they put the vocals from Lose Yourself by Eminem on there. And I was like, piss off.
Yeah,
that's our guy too. You can't use that.
I bet he was thinking the same thing. He was probably thinking like, all right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's official.
Start playing some Jack White after.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting year. Obviously, the Rams are full go. This is our guy. We're going to make a run for the Super Bowl. We believe that this is the quarterback. Lions, on the other hand, we're rolling out Goff. I assume he's going to be QB1 this year. And it's kind of a test. It's trying to see, does he have the juice? Is he a QB1 in this league?
Let's talk about the trade itself, because we weren't really sure if Stafford was going to get moved as this offseason approached. When Brad Holmes got hired,
it was very up in the air.
He smartly played it and said, "We don't know yet, and we're going to weigh all of our options here." And I think the people in Detroit were kind of assuming it was the end after the Patricia era, just because Stafford is in. He's in the window of his career right now where he's got to start making some moves. He's got to, if he wants to really win, and he does. I mean, don't get it twisted, because he's been here for 12 years and he's been on this bum ass team for so long, but he doesn't want to be a winner. He wanted to go get a chance to compete, and the Lions found a pretty accommodating trade for both sides. I think Brad Holmes' history with the Rams was really beneficial here. The relationship with Jared Goff and Sean McVay seemingly has kind of fallen apart. So Brad Holmes did a lot of studying on Jared Goff when they drafted him, and had seen him develop in LA, and he just thought this was a slam dunk trade if we can get a starter back and trade Stafford to a spot where he can contend and compete. And Stafford wanted to go to LA. That was a destination that he approved of and he liked. So really the trade itself, not even talking about all the draft capital, because we got 2 first-round picks out of this trade. I mean, that's crazy. It was a win for all parties involved, I think, right now.
Somebody who's looking at it, from they're not extremely informed on the NFL, stuff like that, might look at it as a very lopsided trade.
Oh, that the Rams gave up an arm and a leg.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but when you think about contracts and how they're involved, it makes more sense, because Goff's contract, they obviously had to unload Goff and his contract because it's so big and it takes up so much cap.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well established at this point that the 2 first-round picks, yes, one of them is for directly Matthew Stafford, but the other one is kind of for taking on Jared Goff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's got a big contract, and I think, as you're saying, people who maybe aren't as educated in this area will kind of look at the big headline and see, wow, is Stafford worth 2 ones, and then Carson Wentz gets like half that? I mean, if that makes any sense. So it's a different scenario, but ultimately I think this trade is going to benefit everyone if Stafford pans out in LA, which they're getting an absolute warrior. I mean, this dude, every single week that he was playing, he was giving it his all, and even weeks where he was banged up, he was pounding the table to be out starting and playing, and he left nothing on the field.
And I mean, we kind of want to touch on some of our favorite moments during this segment, and without a doubt, one of mine came from just this past season, where I think it was right after the Titans game, and somebody asked him, you're obviously so banged up, why don't you just take a step back and hang up the cleats for the season? And he came back and he fired this off with, not a ton of passion, but he didn't need a lot of passion to deliver the message. And it's still, it really hit home for a lot of Detroit fans, where he was like, a lot of people depend on me. A lot of, I'm a Detroit Lion, and my guys are working their ass off every day to go out there and play. So if I'm cleared to play, I'm the starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions, I'm going to play. And, that embodies him to a perfect sense. Yeah. That's who he was. If he can go out there and play, he's going to go out there and play. He's going to play his ass off.
Yeah. Ever since he was taken number 1 overall in the 2009 NFL draft, he had some bad injuries in his early career, and I mean, one of his most infamous plays is when he broke
his collarbone,
right, and he came back in the same game, threw a touchdown pass to beat the
arguably the greatest mic'd up moment of all time.
Oh yeah, no, it's got millions of views on YouTube.
Yeah,
I mean, it's legendary.
He's got 2 of them. He's got that one, and then he's got against Dallas.
Oh yeah,
where Calvin goes down at the 1 and the clock's still running.
Clock it.
And he's going, clock it. Yeah. And then he does the fake clock and leaps over for the touchdown.
That was going to be the moment. Yeah, one of my favorite all-time moments from him. I was going to mention that one. That one's amazing.
Yeah,
it was so great.
Phenomenal.
That's one of those things where it's thank God mic'd up stuff exists, because it just it adds so much depth to that moment. Like, it was already amazing just to see it happen. But it was so awesome. He did so many phenomenal things when he was here as a quarterback. I mean, really this franchise has never, ever had a quarterback like him who can just go out there and sling it and get 5,000 yards passing, break records. He played with Calvin.
I was going to say the stats show it. I mean, he's the franchise record holder for basically every quarterback stat possible.
It always felt like when he was here that the direction of the team was, okay, we have an A+ quarterback. Let's see what we can try and do to help him out. But ultimately,
just never got there.
We never got there. And I mean, the biggest stat I think people are unfortunately going to remember about his tenure here is that he never won a playoff game. And he was here for 11, 12 years. And this league is results driven. And I don't know. I think it's a good time to be turning the page on this chapter of Lions history. But, you know, he's been such a consistently great player. And he was legit a lot of times the only reason that we would go out on the field on Sunday and actually even have a chance to win. I mean, there was that one season where we had like 5 or 6 like fourth quarter.
I think it was 8
something like that. Fourth quarter comebacks, and it was like a new league record. And he was pretty much the reason that we were in any of those games.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see this team now where we have Jared Goff, and you know we've got the semblance of a plan is starting to kind of form here, but like. It feels weirdly lacking direction without him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard to kind of like put it into words, but he was always the rock that we built this thing on, and he's not here anymore. So it's a little strange still.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The only other thing that I wanted to, like, my other favorite moment for him, and then I'll stop talking about favorite moments, but the play that I feel like embodies him the most was against Tennessee a couple of years back on a QB scramble. And, you know, he hardly ever slid. He ever went down.
Not the most mobile.
Ran a linebacker over. I mean, literally laid him out and then picked up the first.
He got like weirdly more physical and mobile the longer he's been here too, by the way. Like when he started out here, he was not that kind of quarterback at all. But the further along that it went, you'd see him scramble a little bit more. He'd kind of make some plays with his legs a little bit more. And he got, I think, more athletic, honestly, the longer that he was here. He kind of developed his game around the league. So I think the Rams are getting a really good quarterback. And it's hard to say if this trade is going to be, you know, I'm using air quotes, like worth it. Like who knows? Because the Rams are looking to get a Super Bowl out of this. That's their end goal.
And I mean that's the end all be all for the Rams.
So
it's only worth it to them if they get there.
And it's a really tough spot to get to.
It is 100%, especially in that division.
Yeah, he's going to the hardest division in the NFL, arguably.
Without a doubt. You know, I don't even know if you can throw up arguably. Because, I mean, like, that division is stacked.
But he's coming into the best situation he's ever had as an NFL quarterback because he's got – their defense was number 1 last year.
By far the best defense in the league. He's got a lot of weapons. That offense is no joke. You know, like, he can lead that team.
And Sean McVay's mind.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean McVay –
great coach.
McVay is a very, very good coach, and he clearly – I mean – I don't want to harp on Jared Goff here, but he definitely made the most out of Jared Goff with what he was given. You know, he pushed them to a Super Bowl at one point with him, and we'll see what happens with Goff here. But I got to think that Matthew Stafford's an upgrade, no doubt, and I think he's going to get a lot out of him for sure.
Yeah, so I mean that's a great segue. So let's flip the script. Let's start talking about the Lions a little bit more and Jared Goff. I mean, did you have any, you know, takeaways from that first press conference?
He seemed a little sheepish, if I was being honest. I mean,
he did seem a little bit nervous.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. But overall, he seemed very positive, and at times he did seem a little more confident, and like he
did seem more confident as time went on.
Agreed. And I don't know, it was interesting. I don't have a whole lot of takeaways. There was a lot of just generic press conference speech.
It did.
But it definitely sunk in that this is like real and this is really happening. To see him like doing the press conference, seeing him go to the locker room, get his number 16 jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it's just weird to actually see it in reality that he is our quarterback now. And he's a very likable guy. Don't get me wrong.
He is.
But, and weirdly, one thing that kind of connects the two of them, I feel like, is when Stafford was here, I get the same kind of vibe with Jared Goff. They don't really like strike me as the guys who are very rah-rah. I'm the leader of the locker room, and like he's not like a Drew Brees. Not like
they're a very quiet leader.
I don't even know.
I mean, you can't say that about Goff, obviously. I mean, you can and you can't. But Stafford, that was him. He's a very quiet leader.
I look at guys like Brees and Brady. Those guys are like they're leading.
They're very vocal too.
Peyton Manning, like those guys are like everyone in the locker room looks to them.
Yeah,
and those guys would like reciprocate, and they would lead the team. And Stafford sometimes it kind of felt like he just wanted to go out there and ball. He didn't really want to do all the other stuff, and that's not to discredit him. I'm just kind of making an observation here, but
he led in his own way, really.
Yes, yeah. And Goff kind of feels similar to me in that respect. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. So,
yes, a couple of things that I took away. We touched on it a little bit, but the idea that he doesn't see this as a rebuild, and I do believe that he has to say that, but that's very interesting. His identity with the fans and this city is going to be very interesting as well, because when he was talking about it, he basically was like, Matt and I are not that different when it comes to, I'm a tough guy, I can take hits. I don't think that he can play that role. I don't think that you can come in and try to be another Matthew Stafford, because we just had that. I think he has to come in and
kind of forge your own way. Right.
And something that Brad Holmes and I think Goff touched on a little bit too is I think this can be his identity, is that he's an established winner. And as much as, he wasn't, QB1, he was QB1 last season with the Rams. They won games. They went to the playoffs. They won a game in the playoffs, and they ran into a good Green Bay team. So whether you agree with it or not, I feel like you can't argue that he is an established winner. And it's a team sport, but
have the Lions even ever had a quarterback that has been starting in a Super Bowl? Like, I'm not even kidding around. Like, have they?
No, I don't think so. I was going to say the only other quarterback that I could think of that was like somewhat of an established winner was Dante Culpepper.
Yeah, and that was the twilight years of his career too.
That was definitely towards the end. So
let me ask this about Stafford. I think something that you read a lot in comments, and it's kind of a popular opinion around the NFL, is that the Detroit Lions have wasted Matthew Stafford's career. Do you see it that way? And I know that we're kind of biased because we're fans,
100%.
But the fact that he hasn't won a playoff game, the fact that he never got to go to lead this team to the promised land, the fact that we always bottom out as a middle of the road at best team, and do you feel like that his time here was ultimately for naught?
Something else to add on to that list of negative things that people say. What's his Stat Padford?
Oh, Stat Padford. Yep.
And it's like, what do you want him to do? You can say that he's Stat Padford, but he's down in the fourth quarter. They have to throw the ball. You're expecting him to lay down and die? Like, there's not a player in the NFL that's going to do that, right? That argument is so stupid.
I think people just generate that argument from seeing poor win-loss totals, but good QB stats.
Yeah,
right.
And it's so stupid because he's not going to sit there and be like, all right, well, we lost.
So I'm going to say that he did not.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it wasn't wasted. He had a great career in Detroit.
The best quarterback career in franchise history.
Yeah.
No doubt.
While that, it didn't translate to wins, that's not on him, first of all. 100% it's not on him. And he did all he could. He left it out there on the field every single game.
Absolutely. I agree.
So, no, I don't think it was wasted. I mean, he had a historic career with Detroit. And the other thing is, you call him Stat Pat for all you want. He's a good QB. I mean, bad QBs in that situation, they can't do that. They can't get those stats. They can't throw the ball like he can. If we have freaking Dwayne Haskins in there for all that time, you think he puts up the same numbers that Matthew Stafford does?
No, definitely not.
No, he can't.
I'm just hoping that whether it's Goff or maybe we get lucky in the draft and a Zach Wilson falls into our laps or something, or next year if there's a top prospect, if we tank. I mean, I'm just hoping whoever it is, I hope that we can find someone who has as much just juice to this team as Matthew Stafford. I mean, there are so many mediocre to forgettable quarterbacks out there, and he was controversial or not, he was definitively one of the best quarterbacks that we've ever had, and made us actually competent at times and watchable and very fun to watch sometimes too. So I hope we can just find someone who kind of embodies that spirit and can keep carrying that on here.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gridiron Zeros. We really enjoy making this podcast. We hope you enjoy listening to it.
Longest one yet, I think.
I think so, yeah. And obviously it was because there was 10,000 transactions.
We didn't even hit all of them.
No, not even close. Yeah. So sorry if we missed somebody that you wanted to hear us talk about, but obviously extremely difficult for us to cover everything that happened this past week. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week when we touch on everything that happens this upcoming week.
Yeah, make sure to give us a follow on Twitter. We have a newly founded account. And we're also on YouTube, Spotify. So just search for Gridiron Zeros. And right now our fan base is basically non-existent. So we're trying to boost it up a little bit more and
absolutely
spread the word. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, and we'll catch you next week.
Later. Hello. Did I tell you what Joe's got me doing now?
What?
He keeps calling Coors Banquet yellow tags.
Oh, God.
So he's got me on the yellow tag game now. It's fucking great. It really pissed me off when he started calling them yellow tags. It really annoyed me. But then I just started calling them yellow tags.
Now you're just you know what?
That's
actually nice.